Good evening, fellow South Africans. We have only 2 races to go in the world of Formula One, and I know thereafterwards there's going to be an element of depression as we get into a lockdown of no Formula One. But do not despair. We are here for you, and we'll be here through that whole time. Enough of that. That's coming up a little bit later. Can 2020 get a little bit crazier than it is? What a year. Are we actually in the year 20,001? I'm going to ask Gary about that in a few moments. Romain Grosjean was in a fireball. Lewis has got COVID. What are the expectations of George Russell? We have a Fittipaldi back on the grid, and we have a whole lot more to come. Welcome to the F1 PitBox. Well, listen, it's a very good evening. Welcome to everybody. It is the first time Gary and I are actually next to each other for PitBox. So here we go, just sanitize.
Thank you.
Here we go. We are social distancing. Where do we even begin, Gary? I mean, it's just crazy. Can 2020 get any more bizarre than what it is?
You know what? It's just been an amazing year, and just when Formula One needed something, it happened for us, and in unfortunate circumstances for Lewis. But I think, just speaking to people this week, the excitement, the energy sort of building up to this Grand Prix has been phenomenal. And I've got to bring in MotoGP as well.
Yeah.
I mean, the 2 highest paid riders and drivers, undoubtedly great talents, but in a way, sort of almost the biggest problem as well for both these categories. Without Lewis Hamilton this weekend, I think people just all of a sudden saying like, wow, we're going to have a different winner. Who's going to be there? George Russell, I think, being announced as the driver is just absolutely amazing. Listen, it hasn't been all bad. I mean, and it's really giving us something to be excited about this weekend.
That's for sure. Listen, first up, our thoughts are very much with Lewis Hamilton and, of course, Romain Grosjean. Lewis Hamilton has got COVID-19. Romain Grosjean is in great recovery after his horrific crash last weekend, and we wish them both well. I think that's the most important. Lots of people are already saying hello to us this evening on our Facebook Live. We're also on Twitter as well. So on YouTube. So thank you very much, Nigel Cosway, who used to be Gary, the chief marshal at Kyle Army. Actually, we wanted him on the show, but unfortunately, he was busy this evening. But he has promised to come onto the show at a later date. Sue Ann Jones listening to us or watching us all the way from Canada. Euclid, Klaassen, Zakia, Craig, Adendorf. So nice to hear from you guys. Please keep them coming in. Nikki Harden Volmerans. Always good to have so many people engaging with us as well. Now, the Romain Grosjean accident at Bahrain. Gary, now for those who are new to Formula One, and when I say new, I talk about people from 20 years ago, but there are a lot of people who watch Formula One and only watching the last 10 years, for example. They are not accustomed to seeing these kind of accidents. The closest I can think of is Alonso. I think it was Melbourne.
Yeah.
The horrible crash.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are very uncustomary to seeing a Formula One car burst into flames. I was sitting and watching the TV, and I just went, oh my word, this is just horrendous. Sure. Let's go back. There's just a couple of, fiery incidents. And yes, these pictures are a little bit disturbing, but bear with us. Gerhard Berger, 1989, Gary at Imola, around Tamburello.
Yeah.
There we go. I mean, there's the car.
Yeah.
He was in that car for 19 seconds before that, by the way, Alfa Romeo got there and actually saved his life. The other one, of course, nobody will ever forget, Niki Lauda. The Niki Lauda crash back in 1976 at the Nürburgring.
Yeah.
That's when we saw fireballs. Yeah, Gary, we haven't seen these kind of things since then. And then, of course, the guardrails. It's uncommon.
Well, I think that's exactly the point. I mean, so in this day and age, with the safety that, Formula One goes racing with, I mean, the tracks, as we know, are specified, highly specified. The cars, we know, are as safe as they can possibly be. So to see an accident like that, you knew that it was an enormous accident. It was, and that's, as you said, because you don't expect it in this day and age to see what happened there, and to see the car ripped completely in half.
Well,
Like it was, which is obviously wide, obviously all burst into flames because everything's just being pulled apart. But it's not commonplace. Being obviously the beginning of the Grand Prix, the thing was full of fuel as well, so you just can imagine what was being sprayed all over the place and ignited. Drove through a steel barrier, and yes, I mean it happened, but it was frightening. I think the most relieving thing was to see him actually jumping back over that barrier, and into the sort of into the safety car's sort of hands. Unreal. To be able to walk away from it, it's just unbelievable.
It is very, very special. Now, let's just let everybody know, because there's so much speculation and people talk about the guardrails, and we're going to talk about the halo, but talking about, are these guardrails right or whatever. There's a huge investigation that is underway by the FIA, by Formula One. And they say it's going to take between 6 to 8 weeks. We're going to get this most probably sometime in January as to their full, comprehensive, detailed analysis of exactly what happened with Romain Grosjean. But if we go back, Sir Jackie Stewart was a great advocate of safety. And then when we had that tragic weekend of 1994 with Roland Ratzenberger and Ayrton Senna, all of a sudden things stepped up. Gary, you're a racing driver, and there's an element of complacency, I think, from viewers who sometimes just sit there and think, well, okay, geez, Lewis going to win again. This is boring. This is nothing. And all of a sudden, something like this happens. What you guys do, a lot of people did. But a lot of people sometimes, forget and don't understand and have the respect for what these people are actually doing. And it doesn't matter if you're in go-karts, in motocross, in mountain biking, in snow skiing, or when it comes to motor racing and specifically Formula One.
And this is where you mentioned the halo earlier on, and I've got to be honest with you. When I first saw this halo come out and they were testing it, I looked at this thing. It was the ugliest thing you've ever seen in your life. You were like, we never went racing like this. Like, well, what are they needed for? When I raced through single seaters in the mid '90s, you thought the cars were as safe as.
And you didn't even have a HANS device.
No, but this was great, because you were thinking of cars that were racing in the '80s or the '70s, where you thought, wow, those things were really dangerous. But having said that, you look at what they've done today. I mean, it's unreal. And the way I see it is, if it was my kid in that car, you'd want him to have that halo. And I think, yes, as you said, the investigations will come out and we'll see exactly what happened there. But I think it's pretty safe to say that without the halo, there would have been a very different result. If we just look at the angle that the car went through the barrier, if in fact what we're seeing is 100% accurate. But look, I mean, it just they've done a great job. But you know what? People also. And unfortunately, this is where motor racing. There are some people that watch motor racing to see the crashes. It's like that, and people expect this sport to be dangerous. And at the end of the day, you also want to be in a sport where people are looking at you and saying, "Geez, I don't think I really have the guts to do this. These guys are something special. These guys are gladiators." And to be honest with you, Formula One has lost a little bit of that because of what's been. You could look at Mugello early on this year, for example. Huge accident. Everybody okay. No problem. People think you can walk away from these things. Exactly. And the cars are so safe that nothing's going to happen. But it's not the case.
Definitely not the case.
And these big accidents are going to happen. It won't be the last one we're ever going to be seeing. That's for sure. There's no doubt about that. But as I said, just good to see somebody walk out of that. In one piece. But on the other hand as well, and we'll talk about that later. I know there's new drivers making their debuts, and you hear people like Jackie Stewart talk about the amount of people and friends they lost during their time and what have you. But it also allowed new people to get into the sport and gave new people opportunities. So in this sense, it's just kind of the game. It's how it works.
I couldn't agree with you more, and I think that's so important. You have to understand that this is the nature of the beast. That's it. It hasn't changed at all. Now, the whole thing about it is you might be watching and sitting saying, what are you talking about the halo? And I mean, it's quite incredible how much interest Formula One has gotten since this massive crash of Romain Grosjean, where people have gone, but I don't understand, what is this about? There are a lot of new people who have gone, what is Formula One about? This is an old 1988 Formula One car that was the MP44 that Ayrton Senna drive. As you can see, his head is completely exposed, and you can actually see his shoulders are actually exposed as well. Post 1994, the shoulders got lifted. The side areas of the cars got lifted to cover up the shoulders, and now we have this effect where we have this halo that goes around to protect the driver's head. And I think we've got a picture now that we're going to show you exactly what the halo actually did. If you look at this picture that is on the screen, had there been no halo, that is the top picture over there, Romain Grosjean's head, meaning his helmet, would have made contact with that barrier at 153 miles an hour. The bottom picture shows you that the extent of the damage was absorbed by the halo, Gary. It is remarkable that these elements get put into Formula One for safety, and all of a sudden, when they do get challenged, and here's another picture of it, it shows you that they make a massive difference. I don't think, Gary, people understand how fast Formula One is. Unfortunately, we watch it on TV. You do not get a perspective of how fast these cars are.
Well, that was the first thing that I said when you look at it. It made me realize, and everybody else, if you're watching it at the time, you just say to yourself, these things are quick. I mean, you've come out of a corner, people accelerating down a short straight. I mean, these things are fast. And you need all the safety that's being brought into. For me, the big thing is, I mean, as I said, the halo was challenged from an aesthetic point of view, and this is not pure and all that kind of stuff. And you look at IndyCar, and they've got that sort of aero screen instead of the halo. But I think even now, looking at this accident, you'll have other championships even looking at the halo and saying, maybe this is the option. This is the strongest option to go for. Look, you're never going to get it right all the time. I mean, it's racing.
Well, it's impossible, Gary. I mean, this is motor racing.
Yeah, exactly. So, but this is a great option. And I think once again, Formula One, I think, has shown that it's at the forefront of all these technologies, all these, the safety implementations and what have you, just what Formula One's about. And to me, that was what Formula One was about. I mean, yes, it was the first lap, so the safety car was there because they do follow the field around on the first lap. So, that's why they were on the scene as quick as they were, which I think may have also changed the situation.
I'm glad you bring that up, and we actually did try and get hold of the FIA to chat with Alan van der Merwe, because unfortunately I'd actually lost his number, but to no avail. But I'm sure we will get him one of these days, and it's amazing some of the comments coming through going, sure, geez, I didn't know that we had a South African who was driving the medical car. He's been driving it, I think, for about 9 years, 10 years.
He's been his job, exactly.
He's been there for a long period of time. And people bring up the Massa crash or the Massa incident. Don't forget, yes, had the halo been there with Felipe Massa, most probably would have deflected off the halo and not hit his helmet. So don't forget, the FIA Formula One are trying every year to make the safety cells better. We've got some pictures, of what the safety cell looked like, what Romain Grosjean actually got out. I mean, there we go. I mean, that's the tub, Gary, and that's what he had to extract himself out of. It took him 3 attempts, he said, to get himself. I mean, when you start listening to how but I mean, look at that halo. It is still intact.
Yeah.
I mean, and that tub is completely intact. The fact that the car split in half, that's got to be an investigation on its own. And of course, the fire, which is something that we'll get to as well.
Yeah.
But these are, there we go. It's all written in fantastic Spanish, which goes yesterday, and it means that is the middle part of the car. But let's go through some of the other questions. There is the halo, and that is how it is attached to a Formula One car. It just been phenomenal in terms of the safety. But I want to go back to exactly what you were saying, Gary. Had it been a lap later, that this happened. Don't forget, and some people, actually Mandy Wiener from Radio 702 actually tweeted me and asked me the question, how long does the medical car stay out for? I said, it stays out until it gets into the pits. I said, within one lap, a Formula One car will lap that car. Had the accident happened, Gary, one lap later, it would have taken at least Van der Merwe and Dr. Ian Roberts at least another 40-45 seconds for them to get around the track. And unfortunately, there have been a lot of nasty people there. When it comes to the world of social media, everyone's got a comment about something. And there were a lot of nasty comments about a fire marshal who looked as though he was miles away from the actual incident and looked as though he didn't know what he was doing. And, we've got a graphic here, and I think let's just put this into context so you actually understand what the guy is doing. And I know, you might be watching on your on your mobile. We're going to just extend it, and let's start at the top one. Thank you, Fritz. As you can see, the fire marshal's on the left here. What he's doing actually is he's spraying down underneath, in front of him, so that the fire doesn't spread towards him. And then let's lift the picture up a little bit, Fritz. There we go. And all of a sudden, he starts getting a little bit closer to the fire. And people were going, oh, geez, what's this fire marshal actually doing? And eventually, he gets closer to the inferno. Now, on the right-hand side, you can actually see a fire marshal, and that's actually Dr. Ian Roberts, now getting closer to see if he can extract Romain Grosjean. So he actually did everything that he could and did it in a very procedural way. But the question has to be asked, Gary, are all of these, and that's why I wanted Nigel on the show, are all of these marshals equipped with the right kind of training? And with the greatest respect to any marshal who's ever done anything, I say that, are they equipped with the right kind of training for these kind of situations?
You know what, and it's quite a contentious, but you've got to understand these marshals, a lot of them are volunteers. And without them, racing wouldn't happen in the first place. I think, you as a driver, you in the car, you're aware of the danger. You're aware of what may happen. If something like this happens, it's the marshals got to act instinctively. They don't do this every day. They don't race every weekend, or they don't go and marshal every weekend like they do in Formula. They go race 21 weekends a year or whatever it may be. These guys there for the weekend, perhaps maybe they come from another track or two around the world, whatever it may be. But it's not something that they train at every single day. So you also can't expect it to happen as you'd like it to. But I think the guys do their best, and that's really all you can really ask for.
100%.
It's all it really is.
Also, Nigel has just said there, no good going to the fire finding the extinguisher doesn't work. So make sure it's on and go for it.
And that's it. I mean, so the guys do a great job, and it is a risky game. Unfortunately, this is motor racing, and so to sort of judge the marshal and say, well,
I think they did a phenomenal job. Listen, there's a fake picture of a helmet going around, melted like crazy or whatever. That is not Romain Grosjean's helmet, because actually he has a picture of Alan van der Merwe together with Dr. Ian Robertson actually taking him away from the scene. Actually, well, that's Romain in recovery. We'll talk about him. If we can try and get, I think it's image number 5, Fritz, of Dr. Ian Robertson and Alan van der Merwe. There we go, where you can actually see that he lost his one boot, his left boot. But besides that, I mean, it is just a horrendous accident, Gary. Something you don't want to see in Formula One. There's Dr. Ian Roberts, and I think that is going to be one of the most watched photographs I think of 2020.
Yeah. But listen, you've got to also talk about the safety equipment, the kit the guys wear.
Yes.
And I mean, if you look at the price now to go and purchase that standard of equipment, which is like all your, all the brands made in Italy, for example, your Sparkles, your OMPs, your Alpine Stars, whatever it may be. I mean, that's also crucial. The Bell helmet, I think uses a Bell helmet. I'm not sure which one you use it, but all pretty much the same. For that to be able to withstood what that did as well. And that gives you those critical seconds to be able to extract yourself. And that's the biggest thing. So you've got to have all of that thing. My thing in racing has always been you've got the balaclava, you've got your
leggings,
but you never have the underpants. It's always worried me. I've got to be honest with you. So I don't know if we're going to start seeing Sparko and Alpine Star and
start making some
but I think it would be a bad thing. But anyway, jokes aside, the thing is, without that kit, he wouldn't have been able to walk out of that car.
No, 100%
time to do it, and that's also a massive industry, and a lot of research, and a lot of development goes into that as well, and that makes a massive difference.
I think what's very important. I mean, you can see there's no scarring on his overalls. His overalls and these FIA approved Formula One overalls are meant to be able to look after you for at least 20 seconds before they might.
Which is a big improvement on days gone by. If you think about it, remember 10 seconds in the 90s.
I think my first racing suit that I've got is actually nylon.
Yeah.
I mean,
as a go-kart.
You know what I mean? So I mean, it's just a little bit crazy.
Yeah.
What is wonderful is Romain Grosjean is on recovery. He's hoping to race at Abu Dhabi. The biggest concern that he has at the moment is on his left hand. Okay. He said his left hand there is in recovery. Jean Todt was one of the first, the FIA president, of course, to go and see him. And one of the first things he did, and I thought it was really fantastic, he said, he has a mobile phone, phone your wife. And he phoned his wife. There is, this was a picture taken earlier today. There's Grosjean with Kevin Magnussen, and you can see his hands are still quite bandaged up. His right hand is not bad. It's his left hand that they're quite worried about. I think it would be wonderful for Grosjean to race in Abu Dhabi. But the one thing when it comes to motor racing, Gary, if you're not 100% fit, do not even think about getting in the car.
I think, and it's a different sport, but I'll refer back to Marquez at the beginning of the year, when he broke his arm. And I think that the rush to get back, it really did a lot of damage after that, and then it became quite serious.
100%.
And you know what? One Grand Prix
is it worth it?
Is not worth it to go and put yourself in that position. If you are, and I hate to say it, but if you're 20 years old and you were George Russell getting an opportunity to drive it, and you're probably gonna make a plan. But at his point in his career, I think we know what he's doing next year. I think he'll end up at Peugeot probably with the Le Mans project and what have you. Why go and hinder yourself in a whole new venture, in a whole new stage of your life? So I don't think there's any need for him to rush back.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. But we wish Romain Grosjean well. And the last thing on this, Gary, as well, there also been so many critics going, wow, typical Grosjean, creating the accident, and you sit there and go, you as a racing driver, Gary, we spoke about this a little bit off air. Let's take Senna taking out Prost. Let's just take that out of the window. No racing driver goes intentionally out there to try and have an accident.
Exactly, and unfortunately, also when you're at the back of the grid, where they've been all year, that's where all the drama happens. As a driver, you want to be on the front two rows of the grid. That's where you're going to be okay most of the time. Where you got a better chance of things not going on. When you're racing like they are racing at the back there, things happen. I mean, it's wheel to wheel. These are open wheel cars as well. You touch wheels, these things are going to happen. It's part of single seater racing. It is what it is. The fact that it's Formula One got huge coverage because of the fact that it's Formula One. But I mean, you look at IndyCar, look at some of the stuff that happens over in IndyCar. You look at it and you think to yourself, geez, it's also mind-boggling. It's some of the stuff the guys walk away there. I'm definitely not to say if it's Formula One. I've still got to say. But wow. I mean, it's just.
Listen, it's been an incredible week of Formula One, but the main thing is Romain Grosjean got out of there a testament and well done to the FIA, to Formula One, specifically to the marshals, to Dr. Ian Roberts, Alan van der Merwe, who were first on the scene, and they were lucky that it was the first lap. But they were there, they reacted instinctively.
And that's why they follow the field around in the first lap, because that's when you have a high probability of accidents, and that's why that safety car follows you around and is going to be able to be there in the time span that it was. So that's the exact reason. You saw the reason why you have the safety car following the field, and that happens in all racing. The safety car that follows the field in the first lap, because that's generally when you're going to have drama. People are close, people are going to touch, you're going to have accidents. It is what it is.
Yeah, fantastic. Listen, so many messages coming through here. Thanks very much. Got a nice one from Garen. We're going to get to Mick Schumacher in a short while. Remain surviving has been the best thing to happen this COVID year. Yeah, it has been a crazy year. Ruan says the new suit's 20 seconds, the glove's still 10 seconds, and maybe that's why he sustained the burns. Very good evening, Ruan, Martin, so many other people as well. Thanks very much for talking to us. So, Romain Grosjean is out. of this weekend at Haas, and we'll get to the new Haas drivers for next year in a short while. He's being replaced by Pietro Fittipaldi. Now, it's a name that, of course, we all know. You've got Emerson Fittipaldi, you've got Wilson Fittipaldi, you've got Christian Fittipaldi, you've got Max Pappas. He's not a Fittipaldi. They're all related.
They're all related. I mean, he's married into the family.
Exactly. And this young man, Pietro Fittipaldi, Gary, the grandson of 2-time world champion Emerson Fittipaldi. Yo, what a time to get into the world of Formula One in perhaps the second slowest car. Doesn't have a massive pedigree of other kind of racing, but a chance of a lifetime.
Listen, exactly, a chance of a lifetime, and that's what we said earlier. You know, these unfortunate, circumstances give other people opportunities. It's now giving him an opportunity. He's being part of he's the test driver, the official reserve driver. I think it's right that he gets the chance because that's the deal that he did.
Yeah.
How the deal happened and why it happened. I mean, that's just what it is. But I mean, if we're allowed to get all patriotic in South African, I mean, listen, last year, if you look in DTM, Jonathan Aberdeen, in my opinion, annihilated Fittipaldi.
Totally.
So, you're seeing a guy get an opportunity here. And I don't mean to speak bad about the guy or anything like that, but as you said, the pedigree is not really jam-packed. So, let's see how he does this weekend. I'm not expecting anything special from him. I've got to be totally honest with you, unfortunately. But that's just my view on it.
Yeah. I think you being kind. I think he's going to struggle like crazy.
Yeah.
I'll be very honest. Yeah. I really think. I wish him well, and you always wish anybody well. They get this opportunity, but I really think he's going to have a tough time. But good luck to Pietro Fittipaldi. Now, the whole thing about is Gary. Right at the beginning of the show, I was going, "What year is this? Is this maybe not 2001? Because next year, in 2021, listen to this, we've got Alonso racing against Raikkonen, racing against Schumacher.
Yeah.
What is going on?
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Now, I just want to let you know, I mean, this is a bizarre stat. Since 1991, okay, that is 29 years ago, there's always been a Raikkonen or a Schumacher on the grid.
Yeah, amazing.
You think about that?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just it's beyond bizarre. All right, let's get into the Haas drivers for 2021. Of course, a couple of weeks ago, it was announced that both Kevin Magnussen and Romain Grosjean are going to leave the team. Maybe they just need new blood. Magnussen's already said he's going into the American series, which is fantastic, and I agree with you. I'm sure Grosjean will go into and join something like Peugeot. First up, we've got Nikita Mazepin, who is son of another Russian billionaire. He actually even tried to buy Racing Point, and they're actually fighting. The Strolls and the Mazepins are actually fighting about it. But this guy comes with some pedigree, Gary. Yeah. You know it. Yes, he's got some big money behind him or whatever. He's still in contention for the Formula 2 championship. He's won a couple of races. And the crazy thing is, Schumacher and Mazepin used to be teammates a couple of years ago as well. So, this is not just a sort of, we could have maybe put Hülkenberg. You've got to give some new life to these guys. We don't know how they're going to perform, and you've got to give them a chance.
You've got to give them a chance, and you've got to also just work with the contracts that are in place. These people, to put it bluntly, have bought their way into the position. Having said that, with the credentials to match, Lance Stroll is another one. You tell me the guy's been on pole, blah blah blah. But the guys are quick. So however they've got there is how they've got there. So you've got to give them the chance to go and perform. I think almost in a way though. It's a big ask, car that's not the best car. I think your only job is to beat your teammate, like it always is in motor racing this weekend. And in one weekend to go and get it all sorted out against somebody who's been driving all season is always going to be a tough one. So the pressure's on these guys. These guys are driving for a future in Formula One. Yeah. They've been thrown into a position now where this is it now. You've got to try and make something happen for yourself. So, it doesn't come out without its pressure.
So the whole thing about it with Haas, we've mentioned that Fittipaldi is going to take the place, and a lot of people are going, yeah, but what about Mick Schumacher, Ferrari Academy, Callum Island? These guys have got a Formula 2 championship that they've got to try and fight out amongst each other. And I think that's got to be priority for Mick Schumacher. And I'll be very honest, from the beginning of this year, Gary, I thought Mick Schumacher going into Alfa Romeo, there we go. All of a sudden, he's now confirmed at Haas. Yes, it's got the Ferrari backing, 100%. But I think it's just fantastic news for this young guy. You know, we've spoken about it at length on the show. He doesn't have his father to sit there and guide him in any ways. Yet he's got to move into the shoes of perhaps one of the greatest Formula One drivers ever.
Yeah, exactly, and I think that's the biggest thing to deal with. But I mean, he's done well with it so far, and you know, put himself in the position to get this drive, leading the championship. You know, we'll have to see how it goes. It's great to see Schumacher back in Formula One, and I think there's a lot of emotion attached, in particular to Mick Schumacher. You know, with what's happened to his dad, etc., etc.
Of course.
So I mean, it's been a great journey. He's got you now. And people can also, again, argue that, you'd have all the contacts, you'll have everything. And as you said, we've spoken about the fact that, after 10 o'clock when everybody's in bed, you can't go and have that conversation with your dad about, what happened here or there, whatever it was. But I'm sure you did certainly grow up with it and did hear a lot in any event. But listen, I'm glad he's in the field. I think that, again, I think the driver needs a little bit more time just to get used to things. I don't think you're going to expect the fireworks you saw from his dad when his dad arrived in Formula One with Jordan. But I think definitely a very good driver, and a sort of driver that'll come on strong as time goes by. So I just hope he's got the time that he needs to get where he to get done.
I think you bring a very, very valid point. If we looked at him in his Formula 3 or GP3 racing as well, slow kind of starter, went there and won the championship. This year, started off horrifically. Yes, and we've got a very condensed season, and sat there and went, whoa, Mick. And a lot of people going, geez, you're going to go to Formula 1 next year. This is not the kind of results. And all of a sudden, man, he just set everything alight and got up there, and he's leading the championship. His one-lap pace is where he seems to struggle at the moment. Yes, his starts have been fantastic, and we've all watched that if you watch Formula 2. But you can't rely on that all of the time. He's got a massive challenger, Callum Ilott, this weekend, who's got nothing to lose because he's been promised zero, and he's a Ferrari Academy driver as well. So he's going to go flat out and balls to the wall. So this is quite important. I think it's very important for Mick Schumacher to solidify and nail this championship this year.
I think so too. And I want to say something else. There's been a lot of drivers, and Mark Webber sort of comes to mind as well. Sort of fought his way through the junior ranks, did okay. He was there, and he was a works Mercedes driver before Formula 1, whatever. But when he got to F1, it really started working for him. Yeah, big time. And let's see what happens with Mick Schumacher. Time will tell.
Correct.
That's all. Maybe Formula 1 suits him down to the ground, and it can go either way. But obviously, you'd like it to turn up in the bit.
And you brought up Mark, because it was one of those where you're sort of there or thereabouts. Got into F1. Mazepin is a guy who's come out and says he's much better in faster cars. Yeah. You're going, okay, can't wait to see. There we go. Hey, a very good evening, Brian McMillan, ex-Protea.
Hey, Brian.
Brian McMillan joining us this evening. Kerry Smith, Aiken. So good to hear so many people saying so ecstatic for Mick Schumacher, Kimi Räikkönen. Okay, well, Kimi's just Kimi. It's just that's how it is. Stroll and Mazepin, yes. The dads have the money, but they produce results. Very, very good point as well. Tony Eva, thanks for the compliment. Hope you're enjoying the show. Now, let's move on to the Williams team, because the Williams team have another debutant that's coming in this weekend, and that is Jack Aiken. Now, Jack Aiken has got a much more prolific career, in my opinion, than someone like Pietro Fittipaldi. And all of a sudden, Gary, you've got to believe. And this is wonderful. By the way, he is Scottish Korean, not British Korean. Okay, like David Coulthard, when he won, he was British. When he lost, he was Scottish. He's a Brit. Okay, but he is Korean. He's actually got a great. He's had some great results in all of the racing categories that he's done. Gary, this, in my opinion, puts a lot of pressure on Nicholas Latifi.
Yes. Without a doubt. Latifi has been outperformed by Russell the entire year by a long way in my opinion. Long way. There's no doubt about it. And another one that's got there because of the backing.
Correct.
Correct. You've got to put it like it is. But this is going to be a big challenge. He has to outperform his teammate this weekend. I mean, if you're the established driver, you've been there for the year, you've got it. But sometimes you've been a second off.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a long way. Sorry to say, it's a long way. So let's see how it goes. And this could put his whole career in jeopardy with a debutant being there in F1. So I think all these are the interesting things that we need to be looking out for this weekend.
And I think also what's so cool about it, Gary, it's a brand new track.
Yes.
No one has driven this track.
Well, this is the thing.
Okay, so I mean, it's not as though all of a sudden you've got any excuse.
Yeah.
You can't sit there and say, oh, but you guys drove it last week. No, you didn't.
Hey, you know what? For all these guys, there's no excuses.
Fair enough.
There's no excuses.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you've now hit the pinnacle of the sport. You've got to perform. It's as simple as that. And if you don't perform, well, then it's the end of it. And nobody can say, well, it was this or it was that or the next thing. Unfortunately, the game, the way it is right now, sort of the way that it works, where there's no texting, it's simulator most of the time. These guys have got these opportunities to drive these cars. We know they don't have a lot of seat time in Formula One cars anymore, like they used to in days gone by. It's just,
Speaking of which, Alonso has been entitled now to drive in the Abu Dhabi Young Drivers Test.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. So
that's another point.
Yeah,
that's another point.
Yeah. So let's see what happens. I mean, it's an unexpected opportunity that's come up.
Yeah.
And you just got to make the most of it. And you just, you need a bit of luck as well. It's got to work for you. The weekend's got to be good. And it could change your entire life. I referred it back to Mick Aiken today, to somebody else I was chatting to. The first Grand Prix did for McLaren, he out-qualified Senna.
There we go.
It was his career.
Done. There we go.
One lap.
One lap. So, listen, lots of people, lots of shout-outs to you, Brian McMillan. There we go. Lots of people saying that. Guess who's joined us? Some guy I think we both know quite well. Sean Duemini.
The very famous
Sean Duemini.
Yeah.
There we go. Race winner, GTC driver.
The whole story.
And
also the proponent of a big crash. I think got more YouTube views than anybody else in South African racing.
Horrible crash. Thank goodness he's okay as well. There we go. Lovely, Sean. Great to have you along for the show. Okay, now let's move on to George Russell and Lewis Hamilton. Now, I remember seeing so many pictures of young Max Verstappen next to Michael Schumacher, etc. And I remember young pictures of Lewis Hamilton next to other drivers. Look at that picture.
You know what? The one that stuck out for me the most was when there was Hamilton and Coulthard in the McLaren factory, and Hamilton was, I think in Formula 3 or just exiting karting or whatever it was, and he looked up at Coulthard and said, hopefully I want to take David's seat one day. And here we have George Russell in Lewis's seat.
I've got cold shivers just looking at
this. I think has made the Grand Prix ready for everybody, and it's just turned on the interest, because it's, yes, they could have got a guy like Hulkenberg, but you knew there was no future for Hulkenberg. It's kind of like,
well, that's the point.
And Russell, this was the right thing to do, to put Russell in this car this week.
I couldn't agree with you more. And a lot of people sat there and went, Stoffel Van Doorn, he's the third driver, whatever. Stoffel Van Doorn, and I rate him really, really high. He's had his time in Formula One. It's not, this race is not going to change his career. Russell has got the opportunity. There was some negotiation that took place. He's the right person to put into that Mercedes. He's tested it.
Exactly.
And now he's got this opportunity, Gary. George Russell, expectations on him, the pressure on this young man must be immense. I mean, the excitement must be beyond. But the pressure to sit there and go, the world is watching you getting into a 7 times world champions car who's won 8 or 9 times already this season. We're watching, buddy.
BMT. That's what it's about this weekend.
Sure.
George Russell. Sure. And I mentioned just now, for all these debutants, unfortunately, there's no excuse. For George Russell, this is the opportunity he's been waiting for. The Williams hasn't been a great car. He's outshone everybody. His teammates, he killed Kubica. He's killed Latifi, as we said just now. This is his opportunity. Remember, at the test last year in Hungary, the day after the Grand Prix, he was fast. I think even better the pole position time.
He was.
Which you can say, well, maybe at low, whatever. He bettered the pole position time. So he was quick in that car. And this is what he's been waiting for. And I think I would assume, being George Russell, looking at Albon and everybody else, Lando Norris up there with cars that can perform in the front, he's been doing everything he can. His copybook was blotted by the incident in Imola behind the safety car, unfortunately. But that's just one of those things that can happen to anybody. But I think he's a quick driver, and I think there's a lot of a lot of people sort of like pushing him on here.
100%.
George, get out there and go and do the business. I think there's a lot of belief in him. And he's done everything a champion should do. He's arrived in Formula 3, won the championship. Went to Formula 2, won the championship. Didn't take him 4 years and 10 million euros to get the championship done. He got it done in his first year. Those are the marks of a champion. The car that he's got has just been terrible. It hasn't given him that opportunity to do that.
And he's made it 8 times into Q2 this season. He's 36-0 against his teammates. The guy is a super talent, and we've spoken him up plenty on the show. He's got this fabulous opportunity as well. Very good evening, Louise Patterson. First time watching the show, loving it. Thank you very much, Louise. Great to have you along. Lots of pressure on George Russell. Hope he does well. Hello, Lynn. Great to have you here as well. What time is free practice one? We'll get to that in a short.
Too late.
It's like I don't think I'm going to sleep. I'm too excited about this as well. Okay. Different layout of the circuit. The one thing, Gary, that you mentioned a little bit earlier, the guys can adapt very, very quickly. The guy's been driving a car that's 2.5 seconds on average slower than the car that he's going to get into. Yes, he's test-driven this car at various tests or whatever. How quickly do you think he's going to adapt? I've even surmised that he might have 1 or 2 little spins, hopefully not bad ones or whatever. We've seen it with Albon. We've been trying to chase it.
Yeah.
Don't forget, everybody, Valtteri Bottas is not a slow coach. He promised you he's one of the quickest guys out there, but he's up against Lewis Hamilton. George Russell's going to get into that car, and in a way, I mean, listen, if he goes out there and starts beating Bottas, then you just think, okay, then well done to you.
Yeah.
But if all of a sudden Bottas is half a second quicker than him, Gary, he's going to try and find that extra little bit of pace. Yeah. And that's when things can happen. And we've seen it with Alex Albon. So will he adapt quicker?
Look, again, this is all subject to and total and just an opinion.
Yeah.
I think Russell's, out of all of them, is the guy that should be in a decent car.
100%. Couldn't agree with you.
I think he's super quick, as I said, done what he needs to do. I don't think it's going to take him long to get going at all. He knows the car, he knows the engine in particular, and just how the engine works and what all that sort of stuff works as well. So you've got to assume it'd be very similar to what he's been used to at Williams as well, because it's the same motor. So I don't think he's going to have much of a problem. Look at Hulkenberg, didn't race for the entire year, got in at Silverstone, performed well. Got to Nürburgring, performed well. Hardly any seat time this year. Russell's had seat time. Yeah. He's worked with the engineers. He's worked with Mercedes-Benz. He knows people. He's not walking into an environment he doesn't know either.
Correct.
Everybody knows him there. So listen, it's a wonderful opportunity. And listen, we'll also see, just how quick Lewis Hamilton is as well this weekend. That's going to be another interesting thing to see, just where it all works out. So as I said, I think there's a massive support for George Russell, and as I said, it's turned on. It's certainly electrified this weekend's Grand Prix. The announcement of George Russell driving Mercedes-Benz.
Yeah, I think it really is something very, very special. Just by the way, it's the first time since 2001 that we've got 2 debutants coming onto the platform, and that is Jack Aiken and Pietro Fittipaldi. So pretty interesting stuff that is going to take place. This is a picture of the Sakhir circuit that the guys are going to be racing this weekend. But before we get into that, Fritz, I want to just ask Gary about 1 or 2 other things. Sergio Perez, desperately unlucky in the last Grand Prix. The podium was there, and unfortunately also another fire, which was quite peculiar, that we haven't seen. I've got a theory that Red Bull, Albon, all of a sudden, there's a tremendous amount of pressure that's off him this weekend, Gary. No one's going to be talking about Albon. They're all going to be sitting there saying, what can George Russell do? So the pressure's off him. Yes, he got a podium, but yet again, he was 30, 40 seconds behind Max.
That's the problem. And yes, there's no pressure on him, but the team's going to be looking at this weekend. The team's going to be looking where he finishes this weekend.
Okay.
And it's too far behind, unfortunately. And this is Formula One. It is the pinnacle. you know, and I think we're all clear on Max being the number one driver in that team on heavy, but you need something to support him. Take the Vettel Weber era. You know, on his day, Weber could have a go at Vettel and beat Vettel.
Correct.
You need to have that similar situation at Red Bull. And to be honest with you, I don't even know if Perez is that guy. You know,
good point.
You know,
good point.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, and I'm not entirely sure if Hulkenberg's that guy either.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just saying that these are some parameters that Red Bull have got to look at. And all of a sudden, I sit there and I mentioned a little bit earlier, Callum Eilert sitting there going, nobody's told him anything. He's a Ferrari driver academy. He could win the Formula 2 championship. This is where my theory is. I have this funny suspicion that Red Bull are going to sit, and if Albon drives like a burst pipe this Grand Prix, basically he's done, finished, end of story, or give him even Abu Dhabi and he can't match anything close. Then perhaps Perez, because Perez can come and bring in the money that they lose from Aston Martin. That's the one.
Yeah.
The other thing is with Callum Eilert, they might be sitting and saying, we're waiting. If Red Bull decide to stay with Alex Albon, I have a sneaky suspicion Ferrari are going to take Sergio Perez as their third driver, simulator driver, and sit there and promise him Kimi Raikkonen's position in Alfa Romeo in 2022.
And you know what, I have to agree with you on that. And I think if you look at how calm Perez has been about this whole situation, you've got to believe there's a plan in place. Because this is how he makes his money. You know, yes, he comes with big sponsorship from Mexico and etc., but he's got to be racing to be able to access that money.
Yeah.
And it's important for him to be there. He looks super cool about it. And then what you're saying there makes perfect sense. You can't see Raikkonen being in Formula 1 at the end of next year. That's I think it's
I think it's
the end of it. So you know what, if Perez is actually still up for a year, get a test driver, go and learn what you can from Ferrari. You know, soak it all up and get into that.
Get into the Alpha with the new regulations.
Not a bad deal.
And perhaps maybe with Callum Eilert, they sit and saying, well, if they decide to bomb Alex Albon and they take on Sergio Perez, maybe they take Callum Eilert and put him as the third driver, test driver at Ferrari.
Yeah. Well, listen, let's see what happens. I think, you know, Red Bull have got an unbelievable problem actually. You know, as I think we spoke about it before. The junior program is not spitting out the quality that they need, I think, at this point in time. And I think that's one of the big issues for Red Bull.
Well, that's the thing. And all of a sudden you've got Ferrari. I mean, you've got Schwartzman, you've got Eilert, you've got Armstrong, you've got Mick Schumacher.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, it's quite incredible. Sure. So many comments coming through this evening. Thank you very much. One of the comments I saw today: is there any better commentary team other than Croft and Brundle? And the answer is yes. Everyone else.
It's sitting right here.
Sitting right there. There we go. We're just having a go at you. Chris Daffy. There we go. My LM radio compatriot watching the show, and my cousin Gareth as well watching the show as well, which is fantastic. Gary, we've got a completely different layout. Now we can bring up that picture. Sorry, Fritz, of the circuit this weekend. This is bizarre. 87 laps around this track. It does look like a little bit of an oval, but it's got 11 corners.
Yeah.
But Gary, you know, when you look at it, immediately you just sit and say, Mercedes-Benz, they've got the power. Cheers, end of story. Is it that simple?
It's not that simple, you know, and I've witnessed it in different formulas, you know, and yes, not Formula 1, but, you know, it's tracks where you go to and you assume your car is going to be the best because you've got the most power or you assume it's going to suit the track. You get there and somebody just completely outhandles you and has the tires working a lot better and is able to get the traction out of these corners and down those long straights, and they're gone. You don't see them for the rest of the race. So, you know, again, it's a new track, as you said. It is in the desert, so, you know, things are going to happen obviously overnight, and the track's going to change and what have you. It's a brand new Grand Prix this weekend. Although they were there last weekend, it's a new Grand Prix, new circuit, new Grand Prix, which is also nice for the guys that are making their debuts because, you know, everybody's kind of like on the same boat. So let's see. It's interesting. It reminds me of a track consistently called Ennepegusa, which is literally just a big track around the lake. You know, it reminds me of that. So, but, you know, let's see. It's about getting the tires switched on, getting it all done as it is in every Grand Prix, and that's going to be key here.
Yeah, I mean, 87 laps. I mean, if you think about it, Monaco, they do 78 laps.
Yeah.
This is 9 laps more. But by the way, statistically, it's actually not the most amount of laps. I don't know which race was the most amount of laps, and I think you've got to go back to the 50s. But if you go back, it was in Japan. AIDA, the Pacific Grand Prix 1995, they did 83 laps of that circuit, which a race won actually by Michael Schumacher. So, I mean, it's just quite extraordinary that we're going to race around here. I was reading some information, Gary, from one of the Ferrari engineers sitting and saying this layout of this track, because they know that the asphalt is very, very rough. We saw it last weekend. It's not going to be as severe on the tires. So you know, they might have these long straights to be able to cool them and not have too much grain. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's just a horsepower track, because they don't have those intricate kind of corners. It's a question of what kind of configuration, how much downforce do you go for. So I think there's going to be a tremendous amount of testing in free practice 1 tomorrow, different wing settings, rear wings and front wings.
Absolutely. You know, so as I said, new Grand Prix, you know, whoever's going to get it nailed down quickest is going to be, you know, quick to the weekend. But look, I think a little bit hopeful from Ferrari. To think
I've
got to be honest with you. I don't think they're really going to be there. But listen, let's see what happens. I think yes, it would suggest that you need horsepower to do it. But the Mercedes-Benz is a great car.
Oh, for sure.
It handles well. It does everything well. And you know, just how it's mapped and what dip settings and all the different settings they've got it down pat. So I think the race is going to be up front, and the interest is going to be to see if Russell's going to be able to give Bottas a go.
Well, I think it is going to be fantastic, and everyone's going, well, is he going to, you know, will he be as fast as Bottas? Where's he going to qualify? You know what? Just let it happen.
We don't know.
Exactly. Nobody knows anything. Let's just let it happen. That's the beauty about Formula One and any form of motor racing, Gary, as well. As much as, yes, Mercedes have been dominant over this whole hybrid area or whatever, we still glued to our TVs because you sit there, you don't know what's going to happen. Who would have thought Perez with 2 laps to go or 3 laps to go,
exactly.
His engine was going to go? That is the nature of the beast, as I mentioned it earlier. You know, just sit there and let's just enjoy it and enjoy these new drivers that come on there and hope that everyone has a great time.
Well, that's it. It's a great time, a safe time, and you know, we've been pushing on to the end of the season now. We've got to a point where we've had a fabulous amount of Grand Prix. You know, it's
actually more than we would have thought.
That's the thing.
For sure.
So we're out there, we're racing. We've got new drivers making their debuts. It's a good thing.
The other thing is also, just to let you know, that Lewis Hamilton, because of COVID, has had to go into a 10-day quarantine. So it was diagnosed 2 days ago or whatever. So, you know, he's got until Wednesday, Thursday. And thereafterwards, then he's got to be retested. And if he comes back positive again, then, you know, he might not finish the season. So, you know, right as we mentioned at the beginning of the show, we really hope that Lewis recovers well and he's there for Abu Dhabi. I think, you know, he's won his 7th World Championship. It would be great to see him there. And in a way, if Grosjean is fit to go and finish his career in Formula One and have a drive, as opposed to having the horrific crash that he had, I think it would be a lot more memorable. Yeah. So either way. But Gary, this weekend it is. I mean, this excitement. I'm like, yeah. What time is it already? Yeah. I mean, there we go. We want to see these guys going out there as well. Listen, so many. I only just noted the Alpha Stadium. He's eating some poor oak. He's not actually eating some poor oak. Guys need to know the history of the Alfa Romeo badge. This one over there. There we go. One of these days we'll tell you all about it. Yeah, Gary, it's one of those. Usually we sit there and say predictions. This one is just a question of let it happen.
Well, let's let it happen, exactly. And listen, my prediction is it's going to be a Russell-Bottas fight.
Yeah.
I think you've got a kid, as we said, it's literally got everything to gain by performing this weekend. Who's going to give it his absolute all to show that he deserves to be in the top seat in Formula One. And Bottas has got everything to do in terms of making sure that he's going to be the guy to keep that seat.
Exactly. If Russell,
exactly.
After Hamilton.
As we said, one lap can change your career. That's what we said just now. One lap can change your career.
There we go. Unbelievable. Listen, as always, just thanks so much for your company and joining us here on the F1 PitBox. Please share the video where you can, whether you're watching it on YouTube or whether you're watching it on Facebook Live. And as always, Fritz, Henk, and our backroom team who put this all together, just so fantastic. These guys work so hard. Gary's not Portuguese, he's Italian. Portuguese. There we go. Hey, Johnny De Silva. Here we go. Hey, guys. There we go. At the Baron. He's watching us from the Baron. Hopefully, those will be back next year as well. Yeah, it's going to be amazing. Thanks, Henk. Thank you, Fritz. As always, we always like to give you the obligatory Alfa Romeo picture for the show. And here we go. I think it's going to come up shortly. Oh, there we go.
It's not the one with you in it. Okay,
no, thank goodness.
This is the right one.
No, this is the right picture or whatever. By the way, there is a car in the picture.
Oh, yes.
For those who didn't notice. There we go. There we go. Thanks as always. Sue and Joe. So nice always to have her from Canada watching us and everybody else. Listen, thank you very much for watching and sharing with us. We'll go through, if there are any questions that we haven't answered, we'll try and get through to, we'll answer them for you as well. Enjoy the Grand Prix. Free practice 1 tomorrow is at 3:30 in the afternoon. Okay, and thereafterwards, I think the race is the same time as last week, which is going to be 4:10 on Sunday. But free practice 1 tomorrow is at 3:30 South African time. From Gary and myself, so great to have you next to me.
It's been great to be here.
It's the right way to do it. Fritz, Henk, and the whole background team, thank you very much for joining us. Enjoy the weekend, and let's hope that it's a fantastic race at Sakira this weekend. From myself, Sasha Martininga, and Gary Formato, take care. Ciao, ciao.